Hello and welcome to Fully Charged Regen. This is the DS3 Crossback E-Tense. In other words, it's a very luxurious Citroen sub-brand, and they don't call it a Citroen, they just call it a DS. It's based on the same chassis as the Peugeot E208 and the forthcoming electric Corsa. 100 kilowatt electric motor, which is about 136 horsepower, front wheel drive, 50 kilowatt hour electric battery pack, and you can fast charge it at 100 kilowatts 0% to 80% in half an hour. It's classed as a crossover compact SUV, which is why it's elevated driving position, and that's why it's called a crossback, I suppose. You can only buy it in a 5-door. It's a very funky design thing. Flush door handles, crazy shapes, textured roof. Now the DS brand is the premium brand in the PSA group, so it sits above Peugeot and it sits above Vauxhall, so its price tag reflects that. This is the highest spec version, 41,000 quid, and that's for a car that does 200-mile range or 340 kilometers on the WLTP. Performance-wise, 9 seconds to 62 or 8.7 in sport mode. But adaptive suspension, very comfortable, very silent. So if you're looking for very, very refined drive, but not necessarily the sportiest of drives, consider it. Boot, 350 litres of boot space. Look, we've got some camera bags in it. That means it's ever so slightly bigger than the Peugeot E208. That means it's smaller than the Leaf, and that means it's ever so slightly bigger than the Renault Zoe. Charge port is here. If I press it, it might work. Where is it? There we go, flush fitting door handles. Still won't work. No, it won't work. It does work. Yes, it does work. There you go, CCS, as I said, 100 kilowatt rapid charge capability, 0 to 80% in half an hour, 7 kilowatt charge wall box, it'll do that in 7.5 hours, 11 kilowatt 3-phase charge capability in 5 hours. That's the back of the car. The same gripe I had with the E208, the Peugeot E208, this entry point, this aperture here is really quite narrow. The door's big, that's quite big, but when you open it, it's actually quite a narrow opening, which is not massively practical. And because the battery pack in this chassis sits under the back seat and down the centre console, I actually think that there's not a great deal of rear passenger space. And also there's not a lot of cubby holes and stuff, which is slightly disappointing. Although I do really like this design feature. Yin and yang. Driving seat. It's a funky cabin, this. Crazy steering wheel, interestingly sculpted dash with a combination of textures and diamonds and touchscreen, 10.3-inch touchscreen. You can buy it with Alcantara as well. But the thing about this car, the problem I have with this car is I know where it's going. It's luxurious, it's quirky, it's interesting, it's very kind of grand designs, Kevin McLeod spec. But it starts at 34 and a bit grand, and this one's 40 grand. That's a lot of money for a car which only has a 200-mile range, and its competitors can be as funky and can have much, much more miles. The Kias and the Hyundais of this world are cheaper with a 300-mile range. The E208 has just as funky dash, just as cool exterior, but it's a cheaper car. How much do you value exclusivity and French quirks? The thing about this car for me is the money is just a little bit too dear unless you love the look of it and you love the exclusivity that much. In the same way that the range for your money with like the Honda E is just that little bit too harsh. The Honda E is an amazing piece of design and I want it and I want to be in it, I want to be seen in it. But it's a lot of money for a car with quite an average range at best. And I think this car with a 200-mile range, for the money, it's not quite there, it's not quite good enough. I think I'd rather have a Peugeot E208. Yeah, or even Even a Kia Soul. Now, if you're wondering where DS came from, well, in 1955, Citroën brought out one of the most radically designed cars you've ever seen in your life. Still to this day, it's highly revered. It's an architect's favourite, the Citroën DS. Fast forward to about 10 years ago, they brought out the Citroën DS3, which is a hatchback, premium hatchback. Looks great, had some similar design features that this is carried on, like that B-pillar thing, that weird shaped door. And now Citroën have dropped the Citroën name for their higher end, and they've just called it DS. So I get what they're trying to do. I would like a retro DS though, as in a retro designed Citroën DS. This is all well and good, but it's an awful lot of money. 40 grand? You're getting so close to Tesla territory, dangerously close to Tesla territory. So there you have it, the DS3 Crossback E-Tense. I mean, all that's left to say really is thanks very much for watching Regen. And if you don't subscribe already, do it! And did you know we also have a podcast every Monday? Again, subscribe! I'm going to the toilet in the bushes.